actually created a slightly different from what they are. When we talk, we see things are not normal.
All right, so welcome to Strange Familiars. Here's part 2 of episode 500. Breaking it up into 2 parts here, make it maybe a little bit easier to digest and to upload and download.
Different tone as well, I think, right?
Yeah, it's a different kind of episode for part 2. Sort of a look back and a check-in with folks that have meant a lot to the show. Rather than announce everybody, I'm just going to let everything flow one into the other. I want to thank everybody for listening all these years. Thanks so much. Hopefully there's many more to come.
Yep.
Seriah, welcome to the 500th episode of Strange Familiars.
Oh, it's 500 already?
Yeah, right? Seems like just yesterday it was number 1.
I mean, honestly, it seems like we've been doing this all our lives.
You know, I'm very, very proud of Strange Familiars, and it has brought me some incredible blessings in my life and some opportunities that I never would have had otherwise. And very, very clearly, the universe has told me that I am where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of, what I've built with Strange Familiars. And there's maybe 1 or 2 other people that I could say Strange Familiars would not exist without those people. And you are absolutely one of those people.
Right. I'm very happy it was successful.
Well, when I wanted to do this, and I said, I want to do an audio documentary version of my first book, and will you play it on your show? I think I approached you and Wes. So my plan was just to do an audio thing and just like, hey, you can just use this for episodes. I just wanted to do it, right? And you were just like, just do a podcast. Just do your own podcast. And that's really was the impetus of it. Like, if you would have said, oh, sure, I'll take that content and use it, I would have done 3 episodes worth of content for you, and you would have played it, and that may have been it. I don't know. Maybe that would have gotten me the bug to start a podcast. But it was you who just said, Tim, just do a podcast. Just do a podcast.
Well, and I also, put you on my feed because I'm like, I'll give you an audience because once you sent me the first episode, I'm like, this is good. This is really good.
Well, that was a massive help. You did give me an audience from the start, and that's an advantage that other podcasts just don't have.
Yeah, and we hit it, and it was at the right time too, before it was saturated. But also, your show is so different than my show. I'm like, you're not competition.
Mm-hmm.
We're complementary to one another.
Yeah, I believe so. I can truly say without you, Strange Familiars wouldn't exist. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome. And I had faith that it would do well regardless. It just needed to get put out there.
Everything that followed, all those blessings, like I said, all the wonderful people I've met, all the opportunities I've had, it all comes from that moment. It's such a cool thing. I'm so glad I sent that first book to you.
Kidding. And I read that. I started reading that at my dentist's office because I was like, I need something to read. I'll bring this. The title, what was the title of the first one?
Beyond the Seventh Gate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going, it's going to be stupid urban legend stuff. But before I even went in to see the dentist, I was already like, I want to talk to this guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
I like what he's doing here. This is really good.
Well, it's shows like Where Did the Road Go? And it's a conversation with you that push things along, I think, for, certainly for me, but I think for listeners and for the group of podcasts that, we sort of have an extended family of podcasts, I think.
Yeah.
Good ideas are contagious.
Mm-hmm.
And we spread them and, we become this sort of, like I said, sort of an extended family. It's really great to be a part of it. And I'll get weepy if I think too hard about it. But really, like, you've become a great friend. And you come and see me a few times a year. We get to hang out and, we get to talk a lot. And it's just been a great journey for me. And I'm so happy you're part of that.
Well, thank you. I feel much the same way. That's why I come down to see you.
And I will get up to see you. Now that I have a car that's reliable, I will make an effort, and we will do that in the new year. I'm guessing you have no clue how many episodes of Where Did the Road Go there are out there.
I think when Jon redid the website, I think he said there are well over 600 public episodes, and there's probably another 400 to 500 Patreon episodes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I know when we did the one of the year, was it 10-year anniversary, and I had Brothers of the Serpent on, I think I went and calculated that there were like 1,100 episodes, including the Patreon ones.
Wow. Yeah. See, that's amazing.
Well, I've never missed a week.
That is serious. Like, that's a serious thing.
I mean, when you consider I've done Last Exit for 30 years and have missed maybe 3 weeks of that 30 years, and it was all because of things that were out of my control.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I've never missed. I'm not saying there were Patreon shows for every week, but there was an episode every single week since the first one I did January 26th, 2013.
Wow. Do you see doing this until you can't anymore?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Unless something, it changes in some way where I alter it into something else. But I mean, I love doing my show.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's, it is a job, but it's the best job I've ever had,
Yes. Yeah. Hands down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love connecting people. I love meeting all these different people. I love talking about this stuff. It's just, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Early on, I contacted you. I don't know if we were texting or what. And I said, what do I do about people who are like trying to get one over on me or hoax a story or something? And you said, very simply, you said, I believe it's better to believe 10 liars than to disbelieve one person telling the truth. I think it was something along those lines.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that really hit home for me. And that's something I took to heart as well. And I truly don't think there aren't that many people lying about their encounters. They may be mistaken,
Sure.
But I just don't believe that there's that many people out there just lying for what reason? They want attention. Come on. A lot of people are changing their names when they come on the podcast. They're not giving their location. They're not doing it for attention in that case.
And the people hoaxing stuff nowadays are either going after like the really big name people, or they're just posting, oh, look at this UFO I captured on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and they're faking it and putting it up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They don't want to be interrogated about it.
Exactly.
Because they don't have all the answers to the questions we're going to ask them. I suspect in less than 1% of the people who have contacted me were making stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who have contacted me with some pretty out there claims, and I'm like, if you could, like there was someone who had who said he grew up with someone who was very famous who is no longer with us, and he said he had paranormal experiences and he told me about, and I went, okay, do you have a picture with him or something? And he's like, no. And I'm like I don't not believe him. He very well may have, but I know if we come out and talk about that, people are going to be like, well, where's the evidence he even knew this guy?
Right. Yeah.
So it's like that's one of the few times where I'm like, man, I'd like to talk to you about this, but you need to have some solid evidence here that you even knew him.
Jeff Ritzmann, very early on and a little behind the scenes stuff, often, and especially with Jeff, we would do a show however long it went.
Yeah.
And then we would turn off the mics and we'd end up talking for hours afterwards.
Yep.
And which were some of the best conversations ever. And
yes.
And which made me just truly just salute that guy. Like, man, this guy is amazing, right? Like, some of those talks were just some of my favorite talks as regards to the paranormal I think I've ever had,
Yeah.
He's just a great mind for this stuff.
He was very open-minded and very genuine.
Yeah.
He wasn't necessarily trying to convince anyone of anything, except maybe that hypnosis wasn't a memory recovery tool.
Well, yeah, but but I had mentioned that I had a woman, sending me dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures, with red circles in them,
Mm-hmm.
And this is early on, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, I have to deal with this. And he stopped me and he said, Tim, he's like, pay attention. He's like, because one of those, that's the kind of person who one day they're going to turn up something in one of those pictures.
Yeah.
And it was very similar. It's a very similar idea to like, don't just throw out these stories, don't worry about the hoaxing. Look for the reality,
Yeah. And it's, the only person that's truly going to know is the person who had the experience.
Of course. Absolutely.
I think it was John Ward who made the comments that said something like, "We don't know, we're not them."
Exactly. Yeah.
That holds true. Yeah. I mean, I would rather believe people who are lying and because the people who are telling the truth, if you don't believe them, then they're just feeling that much more worse about the situation they're not lying about.
Exactly.
So if you believe someone who's lying, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, you got one over on me. Whatever. We talk about crazy stuff every episode,
Exactly. It's like, congratulations. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I chose to have a faith in humanity, and you're suggesting I shouldn't. I'm still going to have faith in humanity.
Yeah, exactly. Seriah, I hope we're talking again at my episode 1,000 and your episode 8 million or whatever, however many you have out by now. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for being part of this journey and for kicking it off for me. It's been amazing, and I'm happy to call you a friend.
Same.
I'd like to welcome Wes Germer to Strange Familiars. How you doing, Wes?
I'm doing well, Tim. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on the 500 shows, man.
Thanks so much. Thank you. You passed 1,000 a little while ago.
Yeah. Gosh, what am I coming up now to? They all just kind of blend together, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just passed 1,100, coming up on 1,111, so it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. You should be proud of yourself, though. 500 episodes is no joke. I remember when I crossed that 500 shows, and I was like, man, I can't believe I'm still doing this.
Yeah, well, when I started, even before I started, let me go way back. I don't know if I ever told you this story. I was having real problems, like just family problems, just nonsense stuff with my birth family and issues with my parents and my brothers and stuff, and just family dramas. It's nothing worth getting into, but it was keeping me up at night. It was really troubling, and I couldn't sleep. I would go to sleep, and I'd wake up, and I'd be up for like hours, just thinking about stuff. I didn't even know what a podcast was, and I heard about these things called podcasts, and I thought, well, maybe it's like a radio show that you listen to on the internet. I had no clue what it was, and I started looking up podcasts, and Sasquatch Chronicles was the first one I found. I started listening, and it helped me. This is why when people tell me they fall asleep to my show, I never take offense, because your show, like just listening to Sasquatch Chronicles, helped me get back into sleep. It gave me something else to think about, helped me get back to sleep, and I soon became obsessed with it. I think I listened to every episode up to a point. It was such a help to me, and it was so amazing. After I wrote my first book, I reached out to you, and I thought, well, maybe he'll have me on it. It's not all Sasquatch, but there's some in it. Maybe he'll talk to me. And you did, and from there, it wasn't too long after that I started Strange Familiars, and you gave me some great advice when I started. And you said, Tim, know you love Bigfoot, but don't just do Bigfoot. It's like you said, I'm telling you that you make it so you can do all kinds of stuff, and that ended up being the best advice I think I got going into this, because that has kept my interest for sure in Strange Familiars.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. I don't get offended when people say they go to sleep to my show at night. I used to be like, really? Is it that bad? But, there's so much noise throughout the day. It's nice to kind of check out and just listen to someone else talk about what happened to them. You tend to forget about, for a small moment in time, you forget about your problems. And while we're in this circle jerk, the one thing I really appreciated about your show was it wasn't a carbon copy of my show. And it's like, and that's one thing I always appreciated about Strange Familiars, and I'm still a fan today. I listen all the time to your show, and the one thing about it is it's unique. There's so many Bigfoot shows now coming out, and it's just a carbon copy of my show, where they absolutely just copy from things they say in the beginning to things they say, and I'm like, and there's a dozen of them. I guess it's supposed to be flattery, but it's a little bit like, really? You know what I mean?
Someone who listens to both of our shows said, at least, for a while they're like, hey, you kind of do the same kind of intro that Wes does. And I said, well, honestly, that's how I learned how to do it, just from listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. So, I wasn't so much copying as like, I just thought this is the way it's done.
No, I never took it like that. Yeah. I don't think you've ever copied the show once. You want to ask people to send in their encounters, and then I try and move things along pretty quickly in the beginning. I don't like when podcasts you sit and listen to them for 25 minutes talk about their problems before they actually get into the show.
Yeah.
But I've never once thought that you copied my show, or I thought it was always very unique.
Well, thank you.
Even down to the music and everything else. And, you have Alison. She's very easy to listen to. You do a great job, brother.
Oh, thanks so much, man. There's a few people I wanted to have on that honestly helped me get started. I didn't know how this all worked. I sort of taught myself how to do it. And when I reached out to you and, I'd been on your show once, I think, and I said, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. Maybe I was on twice. Maybe I'd done the Little People show with you before the first episode of Strange Familiars. And I didn't know if you were going to be mad or think it was competition, but you were just right away just helping me out. Just, giving me advice and saying, let me know what you need. So, thanks, man. Thanks for just, you've always been there. You've always been a support, whether it's for my books, when I wanted to come on and talk about my books or anything else. You've been great to me from the start. So that's why I wanted to have you on 500, and just certain people I wanted to have on and thank, and you were one of them.
Well, I'm honored to be here for sure, man. Definitely honored to be here.
So when you started Sasquatch Chronicles, what year was that, first of all?
Oh, man. I want to say 2013, maybe the end of 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was no one really there. I think there was 2 Bigfoot podcasts when I started, and I really had no clue what I was doing. Not that I know very much different now, but in the beginning, it was definitely uncharted territory for me because I'm not a great speaker. I'm not a great interviewer. I get complimented on my interviewing skills all the time, but the reason why I started interviewing people like that is because I didn't know how to interview someone. And I would listen to other interviews, and it always pissed me off when the host would cut in every minute and a half to, giving his 2 cents. And so I kind of wanted to do it my own way and not have so many interruptions. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was a fun time. It was definitely different than it is now.
I know you said, at some point I listened to, one of your shows you were talking, and you said you started off with just microphones you got at a thrift store or something.
My Goodwill mic.
Goodwill, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a Guitar Hero mic.
Wow.
Yeah, when I started, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any, so my only option was, I was like, okay, well, this microphone will work. And I duct taped it to a kind of a lamp. There's some lamps that they'll bend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Almost
like a mic stand. So I think my setup in the beginning cost about $6.50.
Amazing.
I kind of miss that mic. I have it somewhere.
Go back to the vintage mic.
Yeah, the audio was pretty bad though in the beginning. I used to obsess about the audio. I just wanted it to sound clear, crisp. And even today, I get frustrated. Sometimes you get people on the phone and their phones are terrible, and
yeah.
But it was always important to me and I think that's why I became so obsessive, because I recognized how bad the audio was in the beginning and how the show needed so much improvement, and this huge learning curve for me doing the show. I mean, there was a lot of things stacked up against me, but it all worked out.
Everybody's been asking me this around 500, so I'm going to ask you, did you think when you started that it would go that long?
No, I thought I was shocked when we hit 100.
Mm-hmm.
When I hit 100 shows, I was shocked. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to hit 500 shows. That's light years away. And one day you wake up and you're like, holy crap, I'm at 500 shows. And then, the 1,000th show. And to answer your question, no, I never thought it would go this long.
This is kind of unfair of me to ask because you have so many episodes, but do you have a favorite episode or a favorite encounter that you got over the years?
Oh, man. There's so many. I'll tell you a funny story. So Claire, episode 515, the British lady.
Yes.
There was probably, 200-300 episodes ago. I kept getting complaints about how long my intro was. I'm like, it's only 1:38. How short do you guys want it? And so I kind of was listening to some of the listeners and some of the members, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll shorten it down. So I got it shortened down to 38 seconds or something like that. And the uproar from the irregular listeners that Claire wasn't in there. I cut so much out. So I would say maybe Claire, because, Claire, very intelligent woman in the business world. She's very high, and she may be retired now, but back in the day, Claire was very high up in the food chain in the business world, speaks several different languages. I mean, a smart lady, and her encounter, even today, kind of stays with me.
Yeah.
But I would say that one, I'd say a more recent one, maybe the 6 Months in Hell. The guy had on, he was renting this trailer on this property, and he started running into these creatures, and they would come up and torment this kid at night. He has some pictures of Sasquatch, legitimate pictures, outside of his trailer. And if you look at the damage that they were doing to his trailer, 7-8 feet up, it looks like someone with a huge fist was punching this trailer.
Wow. And
they were just tormenting this kid. No, yeah, it was episode 1046, 3 Months in Hell. And when I had Jerry on, I mean, that was, I've heard a lot of encounters, but listening to him, I was just like, oh my God. I mean, he really was kept prisoner in this trailer. And he eventually left. And it's kind of weird, like the homeowner, I think the homeowner knew exactly what was going on, but he was seeing them at night. He even saw a dogman during that whole thing. He didn't even know what a dogman was. He kept calling it a werewolf. He's like, I don't know. It's a dog that runs on 2 legs. So I'd maybe say that one. 3 Months in Hell, probably a more recent one.
Yeah. So you've kind of changed, I mean, over the course of Sasquatch Chronicles, from the early days of the flute players to later on, you sort of expanded your idea of what Sasquatch could be. Where do you land on that now? Do you even have a guess? Like, this is the question you ask your guests. What do you think Sasquatch is?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. My answer would be, I'm not sure. It's very physical. It's not a ghost people are terrified of. But the main reason why I changed my opinion over the years is, when I very first got into this, I was like, it's some sort of primate. It's got to be some sort of, Gigantopithecus. It has to be that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the logical place to start,
Well, even with that, I mean, the night of my encounter, I mean, it reminded me of an overgrown, kind of like an ape. I mean, it was primate-like. So I get when people have that opinion. And then what ended up happening is, over the years, I would talk to these people on these properties, and they would, they would say, hey, I'm also seeing these weird lights. And I always kind of brush it off, and I would always go, well, maybe that's something different. But after a while, I started hearing it so much, I was like, I can't just ignore this anymore. I mean, there has to be something going on here. And, there's some crazy people in the Bigfoot world, Bigfoot characters, and they have some crazy ideas as far as mind speak, and they're the chosen one, and, all that kind of turns you off when you hear that. At least it does me.
Yeah.
But when you would start hearing it from people who would say, I watched this thing vanish. This thing literally vanished in front of me. And then they don't want to come on the show because it's so far out there. Or their eyes glowing.
Right.
There's no animal on the planet where their eyes glow.
Exactly. Yeah.
And after a while, I was like, okay, I'm not doing the right thing if I look the other way and just give some weird agenda like this is some primate we haven't caught up with. It doesn't feel like I'm being honest. It doesn't feel like I'm doing the right thing. So I started having those people on who would experience mind speak. Les Stroud experienced it. Les Stroud's one of the most black and white when it comes to things. He's very scientific, and he experienced that. He's like, Wes, I don't know what to tell you, man. This is what happened. And it makes you think. I mean, I don't want to put a religious foundation on it, but I mean, it makes you think like, man, is this demonic? Because a lot of that same stuff you hear people say, whether it be mind speak, glowing red eyes, or these weird balls of light that are going through the woods, there's something paranormal going on there.
Yeah.
Whether they're related or not, I don't know, but it sure is a weird coincidence that this weird stuff shows up when Sasquatch is around. So I guess I'll take the time to apologize to everyone for calling them flute players.
No, I think it's the honest place to start, really. And I always say, like, I never blame a hunter who sees one walk below his tree stand and says, no, it's an animal. Because that's what he saw. That's what he saw. But like you said, it's these people who have these properties and these repeat encounters, and it almost invariably gets weird. They're my favorite ones to go and, visit these people because, my question after I get all the Bigfoot stuff is, okay, what else weird is happening here? And I tell you what, I can't think of a time where somebody didn't have a story about a UFO, a ghost, or something else.
Well, it was really the hunters that changed my mind, especially when it came to the glowing eyes.
Oh, really?
Because I would ask them, they would say, yeah, these eyes were glowing. That was an eye shine.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, are you sure about that? I don't know about that. And then, after a while, it's like, yeah, I'm insulting these people. These guys have been out hunting most of their life. They know eye shine. They know when eyes are glowing.
Mm-hmm.
And the hunters really kind of changed my opinion about their eyes glowing.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Well, Wes, I want to thank you one more time. Thank you for your help. Thank you for all your support over the years. One day I'll have you back on and I'll quiz you about some encounters and we'll do a more in-depth discussion. But for episode 500 here, I just want to have you on. I want to thank you. One of the few people I don't think Strange Familiars would be around without your help in the beginning. So I definitely want to have you on. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. It was my honor coming on, and congratulations again on 500 shows, man.
Kiya.life, Kiya.life. They're the nonprofit at Pine Ridge Reservation we are supporting, and we hope that you will support them too if you're able to. They're doing good work there. They're right there on the reservation. It's run by folks at Pine Ridge. Again, it's Kiya.life, Kiya.life. If you can afford to give something, please do. Joshua Cutchin, welcome to Strange Familiars episode 500.
It's a pleasure to be here. How many years is that?
I don't know. I don't know. It's like 500 years, I think. Here we are at episode 500. I'm checking in with some people who have meant a lot to me in the show. You were actually episode 4, which was the Witch Diggers episode. So,
oh wow, yeah.
You have been so much a part of my journey because honestly, at this point, I consider the Witch Digger story really sort of a map of my journey through the paranormal, and the fact that I ended up being able to get to that property and at some point we will tell the full story so everyone can hear it and hear how much it has become a part of my journey. It's just amazing. But beyond that, we wrote Where the Footprints End together. It was a huge journey for us, I think, both. Really impactful, and has been a major thing for me on that side of things, on the book side of things, on the podcast side of things. So, plus we've, you've walked into Site 7 with me. So.
Yeah, there are people that I count as colleagues in this field, and some are acquaintances and some are friends. But I'm going to get real mushy here. Some feel like supernatural soulmates, and I have this sense, Tim, and I think that from what you said to me in the past, you probably will echo it, that we're just sort of doing a parabola. Like we intersect and then we go to our own things, but we always end up intersecting again.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to probably be like that until one or the other of us gets tired of this whole charade and it goes and does something else for a while. I'm really lucky in the sense that you are someone with whom I don't mind intersecting.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I've met a few people in this that I would consider brothers, and you're absolutely one of them. You've stayed at my place multiple times. Always happy to have you here. I just want to thank you for being whatever part you were of my journey through this and for Strange Familiars. Thank you for that, because it's been really, honestly, an absolute blessing in my life. This has been.
Well, I think if I had any part to play in the success, it was only just sort of giving you a little bit more momentum. But this has been something that you have done, and I think you deserve all the credit for the longitude of this. I mean, I can't tell you how many podcasts I've seen come and go since Strange Familiar started. And to be able to keep going and to keep going with the same level of quality is something that is truly rare in this field.
Well, thank you.
It kind of reminds me of those really dire stats about people who self-publish and, how they're, I think, if anybody's ever looked, like, I think the average self-published book sells something like a dozen copies or something. And it's nice to have those little check-in moments where you're like, oh, this actually is doing well. And so I really think that sometimes when you're in the trenches, it's hard to remember what a blessing this is and how we take for granted sometimes things like being able to get to episode 500. That's amazing. And I'm so proud of you and I'm so happy for you. And I mean, I would say here's to 500 more, although that sounds kind of like I'm sentencing you to. No, so long as you continue to enjoy it, here's to 1,500 more. How about that?
There you go. I'll catch Wes someday. He'll have to stop, but I'll catch him someday.
Yeah. But no, I mean, honestly, if I think of shows that are out there still running that sort of encapsulate my entire ethos and all the things that I'm interested in, it would probably be Strange Familiars. Like, Strange Familiars is the podcast of my soul.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I mean that in terms of not only like, because there's some shows from some very dear friends of mine, but they've predominantly got a UFO focus, and there's some shows that I resonate with that predominantly have a cryptid focus. But as far as the things that you cover, not only the weird stuff, but covering the weird stuff holistically and interdisciplinarily, but also fascinating history. I mean, that's something that a lot of other shows don't do, and the fact that it's as much a part of the repertoire of the show, I think, really does set it in its own category in a lot of ways. And that's something that I think is really, really cool. And, I've speculated on this before. That might be the entire purpose of these sort of experiences, is to push you into some sort of subject matter that is, quite frankly, more useful sometimes. But it's to sort of re-enchant the world in that sense. And I know that you think that the world is already enchanted, and I don't disagree with that. But at the same time, I think you take my meaning as well. That like sometimes we take these things for granted.
Yes.
And so yeah, I just, like I said, in terms of the way that I think about things and my interests, there's nothing else out there quite like Strange Familiars.
Oh, thank you, Josh. Thank you.
I mean it.
Josh, are you ready to talk about this book you got forthcoming?
Yeah, I can talk about it because I finished it, I revised it, and it's going to go out to readers now. Pre-readers, I guess would be the proper term. Fourth Wall Phantoms. There's some sort of subtitle that I can't remember, but it's all about fictions that come to life. And, the famous Alan Moore, John Constantine example is just one of...
The Shadow.
But there's so many of these, and they all come from these people that we, respect from literary corners, but also film and everything else. But so there have been some people who have looked at that. There's an excellent book by a gentleman named Ramesh that came out last year that was on that topic. But there's also an entire sort of angle that you can use to cover how the phenomenon borrows our fictions as well. And that's been talked about some too, but so doing what I do, here's this idea of these fictions coming into our lives. Now let's see what that means for UFOs, what that means for cryptids, and what that means for ghosts. And it ends up taking you into some really strange territory, but it's a very personal book, and I'm really excited about it. When I finished Ecology of Souls, I was like, I don't know if I have anything else to say. Well, I've found more things to say, but I don't know if I could have said them without getting through this first, because this was sort of the real grappling with all the things that I couldn't really reconcile. So I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm anticipating that Fourth Wall Phantoms should be out spring of 2025.
All right. I hope you don't beat the Hermit book out with that.
Well,
we'll see, because I'm having trouble here just finding time to do it. But
well, you've got to get the Hermit book out so that we can get another jam going here, because I think it feels like time for that again. Oh, and that's I think where we'll leave it for everyone. But Tim and I have some plans to make plans. Let's put it there.
There have been discussions. Now, the Hermit, I really just need to finish up some illustrations, but I need a chunk of time to do that. The way it works with those illustrations is I need some time between them, so it's not the same Hermit illustration 300 times.
I completely
sort of
understand
need
that.
to reset in between each chapter in a way.
Yeah, you sort of have to give the muse a rest.
Yeah.
In between. I totally understand that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be out soon. But anyway, well, we'll look forward to Fourth Wall Phantoms. Josh, I love you so much. Thank you for being part of Strange Familiars.
I love you too, brother, and I'm so proud of you, and I know that the future holds great things.
Brother Richard, thank you so much for being a part of the Strange Familiars family. It would not be episode 500 without a little segment from you. I just wanted to thank you for all you've given to the show over the years, your time, your wisdom, your stories, everything. Thank you so much.
Well, it's a privilege. Never did I think, as I sat in my office up in the Donegal woods in very cold November evenings like these ones here, when I would be doing the admin, and I found Where Did the Road Go? And I used to listen to that, and suddenly there was this other stream coming across it. And at the start, I thought something had gone wrong, and began to hear your dulcet tones and was utterly hooked on Strange Familiars as well. It's been a privilege to be part of it.
Well, thank you so much. I can't say enough how much of a blessing, literally, you've been to the show. I know people love hearing you. So here on episode 500, I just wanted to bring you on quickly and thank you for being a part of it all.
It's a great joy for me. It's a privilege to hear all the stories. It has helped me hugely as well in terms of expanding my understanding and whatever little bit of wisdom or knowledge from our tradition I can bring occasionally. I'm always happy to do so. And I mean, there are lots and lots of friends and connections that have come from it, not least yourselves. And I hopefully look forward to welcoming you and maybe some of the Strange Familiars family to Ireland at some point in the future.
It's hopefully in the works. I'm really hoping it's going to happen sooner than later.
Well, we'll be waiting to welcome you and to lead you through some more haunted places along the way.
All right. Thank you. Adam and Serfiel from Conspirinormal are here. Welcome to Strange Familiars episode 500.
Hey, friend.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be here. Celebrate this.
It's good to be here. You beat us to the 500 mark.
I don't know how I lapped you guys. I don't know how I did that.
I know how.
We know how. We've taken some breaks. One of which has been a pretty big break in the last month since we finished up the conference. So.
Yeah, well, I know the conference always takes a lot out of you guys.
It does.
It's a lot to organize. When did you start?
Well, I started in 2012.
Okay.
March of 2012. So it's going on 13 years now.
Mm.
And Serfiel, I mean, he's been doing this with me for what's it been 6 years now, I think, Serfiel?
I think it's approaching that at least, yeah.
Yeah.
What did the landscape look like when you started, Adam, as far as podcasts?
Well, it's funny because when I started doing it, we may have talked about this a little bit before, but when I started doing it, it was I felt like things were oversaturated then.
Really?
It's definitely oversaturated now, but then I felt man, it's late in the game. I felt pretty late in the game. Things were just kind of people were kind of knowing what podcasts were, I mean, I think it was kind of the word was definitely out there, right? But not very many people knew about podcasts, if that makes sense. I mean, you had the app on your iPhone or whatever, and a lot of people didn't even know how to use it back then.
Right, yeah.
And or even what it was. What is this purple app on my phone for? But it really was when I started listening to podcasts, well, what would later become podcasts, I started listening to podcasts around 2005.
Okay.
Was when I started listening to and then it was an internet radio show, right? I mean, it was a show that was broadcast live on the internet.
Called it that
and yet. Then it didn't. The word podcast wasn't even around, and I think that didn't even start until, really after iPods really became really big,
right?
Around that same time, and then that word came about, and there were like podcasts, quote unquote, that had like come and gone by the time like I'd started mine, like
Sure, yeah.
Dr. Future, like Future Quake, Ghostly Talk, History, World of the Unexplained, like all those guys, like you can consider them all podcasts, really, and like they had already come and gone by the time that I even started. So I was just like, man, I'm like late to this game, but I'm going to do it anyway. But yeah, I mean, in the last few years, I feel like in the last really 4 or 5 years is really when it's really exploded.
Oh, yeah.
But then there really wasn't as much then as there is, definitely as there is now.
Oh no. I think they issue everyone a podcast now, with their Social Security number. But
That's true. And things changed pretty drastically for us during the pandemic because we didn't buy into all the like, weird stuff that people were like spouting at the time.
yeah, I remember you were having some problems just because of half your name there for a while.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of your videos got, I think, demonetized because of our name. Oddly enough, I remember that. But I think that might have been before the pandemic, actually.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't necessarily remember. You already knew Seriah by the time I met Seriah and met you and everything. How did that come about?
So Seriah and I were both on the same like network that had a whole bunch of podcasts on it that actually streamed them live.
Okay.
But meaning that they stream like the actual show.
Yeah.
And so this network, and I would check to see if when my show was playing on the network, and one day I go to check, and then I get grabbed into this conversation with these guys talking about like Whitley Strieber and and Bud Hopkins and like the 1980s UFO abduction scene, and I was immediately like, wow, this is cool. And it was one of the episodes that Seriah did with Aaron Goulias and Mike Cleland on the UFO history.
Yeah.
And so I found out, well, what is this show? I'd like to listen to it. And that's where I found Where Did the Road Go? So I probably started listening to Where Did the Road Go about like 2015. And I think I just contacted Seriah to come on Conspirinormal. And then he started having me on for the roundtables. And that's pretty much how I met Seriah.
Because the first time I met you was when Seriah and you came to Albatwitch Day.
Yeah, back in 2017. Yeah, I drove up. I was on this like East Coast find myself trip. And
Did you find yourself?
I don't know. I don't know if I might have lost myself again. But I went up for that, and that was kind of a crazy time because like I remember I drove from like the Washington D.C. area to New York. I stayed at Peter Robbins' house, then drove to Seriah's house 30 minutes away, and then back down to southern Pennsylvania. And I think also on that trip I hung out with you at Gettysburg too.
Yeah, we went to Gettysburg I think
went to the bridge.
Yeah, which I ended up doing a whole thing on. Yeah, that's the first time I ever went to that bridge was with
you and James.
Yep,
I believe.
Yep. Yeah, man, it's just been such a cool journey, and like I don't know how you feel, but whatever else. This podcast world has brought so much to my life and opened so many doors for me. It's just been such an incredible journey. It really has. I mean, from meeting friends to just going out and having these experiences and stuff. It's just been amazing. And you guys have been part of that. You asked me to come to Strange Realities. Had me down there in Nashville for the first year. I know I was invited all the other years. I couldn't make it, but at least I got there once. At least I was there for the first one.
Yeah, we got you here for the very first one, back in 2019. Yep.
Yeah. It's been an awesome ride. I'm really thankful you guys are part of it. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. It's been a blast being a part of this and, getting to know you and listening to the show has been awesome.
I love the sort of extended family of podcasts we have. You guys and Where Did the Road Go and us. It's just a cool thing. It was a great thing to be a part of. So, thanks for being part of that. Do you see yourselves going, have any clue? 20 years still doing it?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. There may be some changes coming along in the near future, but we'll see.
Okay.
Conspirinormal may stop at a certain point. We may just be doing other things, or we may just keep Conspirinormal going, kind of there, and then maybe branch out into some other areas. That's kind of like what's in my head. Really, since the conference has been done, Strange Realities conference was done at the beginning of November, I'm really just kind of been been kind of lazy and focused on something else. So
Either way, I think we're kind of
personally,
at
so
the end of a chapter, whatever that's going to mean.
yeah, yeah.
You know, but I feel like there's going to have to be some kind of like reboot or reset for sure. But we'll do something in some form.
Well, whatever it is, keep us posted.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right, Adam Surf, thanks again.
Well, thank you, Tim.
Rob and Eamonn, Monster Fuzz, welcome to Strange Familiars.
What is going on, Tim?
Well, here we are on episode 500, and I'm wanting everybody who's kind of been a big part of the show to stop by and say hello while we're doing it.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And well, first off, yeah, congratulations on hitting 500. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a great achievement. And we're, I think, very happy that you thought to include us in the people to come on. So thank you very much for that, and congratulations.
Oh yeah, you're part of the extended family now, whether you like it or not. So
we're in the strange verse.
So if something happens, I will be asking for loans.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. How did you find the whole journey to 500 episodes? Is it did you think you'd get here when you started? I suppose is the first question.
Probably not. I had no idea. To me, it was something I'd try for a while and see how it worked out. And I don't think I had any big expectations either way. And then when it worked, of course I was overjoyed. I mean, I've said it, and I'll probably say it 20 other times on this show as I'm talking to people, but it's been amazing. I'm super lucky, and the show has brought so much into my life, from just opportunities to friends, which is the major thing. I mean, the people I've met, including you guys, through this has just been amazing.
Yeah, that's
what I'm curious. What do you think is outside of just obviously a change in your profession and your kind of main way of surviving? What do you think has been the biggest thing that's changed about you after hearing 500, stories or researching stories or hearing from the listeners and stuff like that?
Oh, honestly, I have probably moved from being a somewhat bitter person, honestly, to a person that's just kind of filled with hope, for people in ways that I didn't have before. Hey, it's not always. I get down. I watch the news.
Yeah,
I see what's going on out there. But in general, I think it's really given me a sort of more positive attitude, and part of that is just talking to so many different people from different walks of life, and just realizing how much we all have in common and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's probably one of the, if you were to start again, that would be nearly the number one thing you'd want. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's almost a byproduct because, when you're starting these things, I think these projects, it just feels like something you're doing, right? And if you're doing it with a friend, it's like, this is a thing that the two of us are doing. And because it's a podcast, it's a very kind of insular thing where you're sitting in a room, you're making it, you're putting it out. In your case, you might be meeting people face to face. It's a little bit different, but still, you don't actually really realize that there's I suppose tangible is kind of the right word, where there's actually you're actually reaching other people, I suppose is the best way to put it. So
yep,
it looks back at you at times, right, where you're in scenarios where you're like, oh, like for us it was the live show, or when you do Alba Twitch Day and stuff like that as well, where you're actually meeting the community that you've built, and it's pretty crazy, right?
It absolutely is. One of the times it became most apparent to me was during COVID, when I had that really bad MS attack.
Mm-hmm.
I missed, I don't know whether it was 1 or 2 shows without warning, and we came back and I just did it, hey, this is what happened, just the sort of explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of people that reached out from podcast community, from just listeners, it was amazing and touching and just incredible. And that was probably the first time, I knew I liked doing this and I knew I was enjoying it, but that's message from the powers that be or wherever it came from. This writ in big letters, you are where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
There's been a few other times throughout this sometimes like when amazing things happen, like when we were in Indiana and that fireball happened, you know, sometimes like shocking things like that. But that was really, I think, the first time I was like, I am supposed to be doing this. The way people reached out and supported us was the kindness we were shown. I've talked about this before too, you know, having come up through underground music and through that community, you know, I was still involved in that, and nobody from that community reached out, you know?
No.
The podcast community just gathered around, and, you know, they made sure Alison didn't have to make meals when I was going through that. It was incredible. You know, it was just incredible.
That's so kind, yeah.
We did that too. We had, to speak volumes of the podcast community, a listener of ours was sick. And we did a bit of a fundraiser for him. And like we said, we'd match the donations, and like the outpouring of people that came forward to help out a listener who, it wasn't even us, like it wasn't even a direct thing. It was like a listener of ours who we were doing a fundraiser for. And so many people reached out that like, it was one of those moments where you're like,
we nearly regretted saying we'd match the donations.
Like, I will never.
We were like, whoa, okay, everybody slow down. We don't need that much.
But it was cool. And even for us, that's one of our highlights where it's like, it's an outpouring.
And I think for some reason there's so many other things, like you're saying, with playing music and stuff like that, and it always seems to be so competitive, where like we're better than this band or blah blah blah, or like there was in areas there could be edges of that, whereas the podcast community, it just seems like everyone's trying to lift each other up. There's never this sort of feeling of, you know, terrible competition, or there's not enough room for everybody.
No,
it's a really great place.
Absolutely been my experience. It's just everyone is rooting for each other, and there's room for all of us. And you know, let's go. You know, it's just been fantastic. I know it exists in corners of that world,
of course,
but I've never experienced it, not once.
No,
same.
Everyone wants to help everyone. Is there any episodes that you have that, I suppose, was there? I'll ask it both ways. First off, was there any episodes that you ever had that you were like, that isn't going out for any reason or another? Whether it be the story was too out there, you didn't feel like it was fair to put it out. Was there any stories like that where you were like, nah, this is staying on the cutting room floor kind of thing?
There's one, and it was because the guy was trying to control how I presented the story.
Oh, I don't like that. Yeah.
And basically, he was a nice fella and all, but he was very difficult to edit. He had like speech issues, right? So and that's not his fault, you know.
No.
But I spent a long time editing to make him sound as, you know, as good as he can and make the story flow. And I wanted to put, I think, the first half of the story on the main show and the second half as a patron show. And he flipped his scat, you know, and he's like, no, I don't want my story behind a paywall. And I was just like, well, okay, then it's not going on at all, you know. So you know, I was like, basically, you're not going to tell me how to run my show.
Yeah.
And he wasn't nice about it too when he said that. He got very, very upset about it. So that's really the only one I killed. There's been stories that I've been like, oh, are people going to like this? You know, and I just kind of ran out of content and had nothing for that week. I'm like, well, this is what it's going to be. And surprisingly, people are like, I love that episode. There's been a handful of episodes that I've put out there. Like, people aren't going to like this. That people have just been like, I love that guest, you know? So you never know, you know? You really never know.
And then the flip side of that would be, what are your favorites, I suppose? Like, is there ones that are memorable that jump out to you? Have you got even like a top three maybe or something that really stick out in your head?
There's a couple that kind of, where I could feel things changing in a good way. One was, it's back, I think in the 60s or something. It's called It Was a Witch or a Sasquatch. Right. And that was such a compelling story, and we got so many new patrons just signing up because of that. People still talk about that. I forget what episode it was, but you know, I love Bigfoot, so the story I had with Gage, and I think we talked about this on Monster Fuzz a bit, or you guys did with Brother Richard, about the witness who saw he saw a white Bigfoot, his friend saw a black Bigfoot, and the third friend saw nothing. You know, that was a favorite, just a personal favorite of mine, because I think it just like says so much about the phenomenon. And then Brother Richard, every episode, but the first episode with Brother Richard, I couldn't believe it, because he just contacted me out of nowhere, and I was like, let's do it. And then just being absolutely blown away, just like, wow. I still pinch myself. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. It's like, how lucky are we to have him as a guest?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That first episode that you guys did, like, that's a special episode. I don't think I had ever heard anything quite like that before I listened to it. It's just such a special episode, that one that you put out with him.
Yeah, he's been such a great guest, and again, another friend I've made along the way, which, no pun intended, because it's Brother Richard, but what a blessing this podcast has brought to my life. It's just been amazing.
It is, and your influence even extends further, because it was only a couple of weeks ago that myself and Eamon met up with Brother Richard in Dublin and had a coffee and a chat, and that all in a way it was all from a podcast, right?
Yeah.
And not only was it from a podcast, it was from your podcast, and you're all the way across the pond.
Amazing.
And so just, even though we would be geographically quite close to Brother Richard, just the set of circumstances, starting podcast, you starting podcast, Brother Richard being into what he's into, and it all kind of comes together, and then you're in situations that you would have never have had otherwise, just as a result of the journey that is podcasting. And it really is a great crack, for sure. So 500 episodes, I'm sure you've enjoyed, right? Is it one episode every week? You do two sometimes, right?
It's one a week usually, and then an extra patron show every month. And technically, we're over 500 because for the first, I don't know however many dozens of patron shows, I didn't number them in order with the main show. They were just not numbered. So, but this is numerically number 500, so we're celebrating.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's crazy, man. I'm so happy for you to get to this point as well. And you've done a lot of hard work yourself.
And what you're releasing as well, high quality.
Yeah, really good stuff.
Intriguing, interesting episodes. It's
interviewing people.
Yeah.
Did you anticipate? Because I wasn't around the early days of your podcast. Eamon was always the guy that introduced me. Was Alison on board early? Is that a surprise that she jumped in and got more involved? Is it something, that
it's
kind of
a surprise to me,
time?
yeah, because so Alison is not anything involving performance. She's doesn't want anything part of it, but she's happy to talk. She can public speak if it's just talking about a subject she knows about. She's fine with that. And giving her resistance to the woo side of things, I didn't know if she would ever be a part, but pretty early on she did a show on some local history. I think the first one we did was about what they called Barnum's cannibals. They weren't really cannibals, but one of which was buried here in York when they died on tour. I was kind of surprised, like, oh, she's going to take part. And then she kind of, for a while, I think she kind of went hands off for a bit, but then she came back and started helping a lot here recently. So she, so a little bit surprised that she took to it so well, but I'm happy she did. And there's a lot of Alison fans out there.
Yeah. Her presence is great on the pod, I think.
It's a really nice thing, because I know sometimes she won't really be in the main episode much, but just the start of the episode where you both kind of catch up, there's just a real nice feeling off that, you two kind of joking around with each other, sometimes not even joking around and just chatting and getting to the episode, but I always really enjoy that.
That's kind of completely genuine, in fact she'll tell you if she thinks about the mic being on too much, she'll lock up. So it's very just, it's kind of our normal interactions.
I think that's probably why it's nice for people, because it's just authentic. You know what I mean? I think that you can really tell that you have this very authentic relationship that just seems really nice.
It's all right.
See, authentic.
No, it's great, and I'm so happy she's a part of it too, because she brings a lot to the show. It's good to have and her skepticism has changed over time. She's not the hard skeptic she was at the beginning. She allows for things. She'll say, I don't know what it was, but they experienced something. That's sort of like honest skepticism, right? So she's not going to say like, oh, that guy definitely saw Bigfoot, but she'll say like, well, he saw something and it definitely affected him. Like, okay, that is, I'll take that.
Who's to know where 500 more episodes might bring her? She could go deep into it.
That's the goal. I'll have Alison fully wooed out by episode 1000. She'll be talking about interdimensional Bigfoot and
awesome. Metaphysical Bigfoot. Yes.
Fighting greys.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Bizarro Alison.
Rob and Eamonn, thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for being a part of Strange Familiars, and we'll talk to you again soon. We're going to do a Christmas show, right?
We are
Definitely,
indeed.
definitely.
All right.
Ho, ho, ho.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Take
Cheers.
care. Congrats.
Kaya.life, Kiya.life. They're the nonprofit at Pine Ridge Reservation we are supporting, and we hope that you will support them too if you're able to. They're doing good work there. They're right there on the reservation. It's run by folks at Pine Ridge. Again, it's Kaya.life, Kiya.life. If you can afford to give something, please do. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the triumphant return of Chad Redding to Strange Familiars.
Chad, you're back.
I'm back. Yay. We are deep in Michaux on a trail called Buck Ridge Trail. Are we about halfway?
A little over
halfway.
6 miles in the middle of nowhere.
Explain where we started.
So we basically started at Michaux's full of a ton of history, as everybody knows. And there are multiple state parks in Michaux, and we started at Kings Gap State Park, an environmental and education center, which is basically was some rich guy's mansion.
The last time we started during the day, and you showed me the mansion. It's really neat.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
So we started uphill, then went downhill, then climbed uphill twice again, and now we're on the whole downhill batch.
And we'll end it, Pine Grove Furnace?
Pine Grove Furnace, yep. Right off 233. So we put one car at one end, another car at the other end.
And we started at what time? 7? What time we started?
Oh, no, 6 o'clock.
A little after 6.
Yeah, 6:30ish, 6:30ish.
And then I forgot my keys, so we had to walk back.
Which is the second time you've done that.
I know.
I'm going to remember that.
I am so used. Whenever I hike with Chad, I throw my keys in his glove box when he's driving, and every time, so I'm just totally used to it. And both times we did this, I threw my keys in, and then luckily I remembered before we got too far because we got one car on one side, and one car on the other. And
that shows you how much we've traveled together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, just the habit of just throwing them in. Oh, it's a good hike though.
Really good. It's a beautiful, quiet night.
It's really quiet.
And it's a little after 8:30.
We've been at this about 2 hours.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like it.
No.
I'm surprised.
John's brewing some woods tea.
Making a little woodland tea.
What we got in the tea, John? What are the ingredients?
Pretty simple tonight. We have white pine needles, and we have winterberry, or tea berry, or as I just learned, it's also called
Hunter's
Hunter's berry.
Yeah. I know it by tea berry. I know it by winterberry too, but I usually call it Hunter's berry or tea berry.
And we got the leaves. It's the
berries, yeah.
Wrong season for the berries, but
sadly, because it's one of my favorite wild edible tea berry. Love it.
Grows all through these woods, all through here.
Lovely ground cover peeking through the thick mat of oak leaves. Little bits of green peeking out here and there.
On one episode, we were eating tea berry, Chad, and somebody emailed me and they said, I don't know where they got this information, but they said that Bigfoot considers tea berry its own. All tea berry belongs to Bigfoot. I was like, oh, well.
Well, I've eaten tons of it in these woods.
I'd like him to fight me for it.
Yeah, exactly. He'd like to come out and claim it.
Like, I've literally picked like bushels of it and brought it into the Sunnywald.
So, maybe you've explained this before, Chad, but I don't know it, so maybe others are wondering too. So, ruck rabbit. Why the rabbit? What's the... Is there a story behind that, or just like rabbits?
Actually, there is. If you Google the bushcraft movement, the whole bushcraft thing, scene, I guess is the best way you could say it, you'll see a lot of guys, they'll have a logo, and it actually was one of the canoes, too. I can't remember which canoe company uses it. But you'll see a rabbit with a pipe.
Okay.
And it's based on an old Eastern indigenous people's legend. I can't remember which tribe. But it was basically before coyote came here to the East Coast, because coyote's only been here for 300 years.
Right.
Rabbit was the trickster.
Oh, that makes sense.
Of the indigenous folk here. So how the legend goes is, why does Rabbit have time to smoke his pipe when bear, wolf, fox, bobcat, and all the other predators are hunting him? And it's because he's confident in his abilities. You know, it's coming out here and being confident in your abilities to take care of yourself out here, being able to know plants like this, how to make fire, how to make yourself comfortable, and stay alive if there's a problem.
Yeah, I dig it.
So you be confident in your abilities. So they kind of like were using that logo. So I like the logo, but everybody uses it. And unlike a lot of the guys that do what I do, I like to actually backpack in. Like, I kind of do a hybrid of backpacking and bushcraft. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to go in, and I like to collect. At the time, I was really heavily into collecting backpacks. Like, I get gear obsession.
I've noticed that.
Have you noticed that?
I have noticed that.
Yeah. Right now it's lanterns, like Coleman lanterns. Like, I've had 3 Coleman lanterns now. So I get gear obsessions. I mean, the axe obsession never goes away. But so I collected all these backpacks, especially historical backpacks. I got a lot of old stuff. And I was like, well, I like the rabbit, the concept, but I don't really smoke. I like backpacks. And ruck rabbit, you know, because I like the term ruck and rucking versus like backpack. And it rolls off the tongue really nice.
Yeah, it's got a nice alliteration going there.
Yeah, so that's where it came from.
Oh, it smells good.
Oh, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
That smells great.
Nice golden color. Yep.
Sure
Perfect.
is.
Perfect.
You got a cup, Chad? You want some of this?
Actually, I think we should all just drink out of the same cup as a symbolic thing. What do you think?
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
We may want to let it cool just slightly.
Yeah.
I have nothing but love for this forest.
This is such a cool hike. I really like this. Chad's done this hike quite a few times. But
a lot.
Chad took me on this hike during the day. I don't know, a year and a half ago, something like that.
Something like that.
Right about here, we started hearing weird stuff from that direction.
What kind of stuff? Like things really far away, or more like?
They didn't sound too far away, if I'm
No,
recalling.
it sounded close.
Because the wind was blowing pretty good.
There was more wind than what it is today.
Yeah.
Tonight. It was like stuff like just out of the. Let's see now. There, it did it again.
What?
I keep seeing like a light, like not like a flashlight, like the lights we normally see, but like the woods light up, like a light over my shoulder, like a headlamp, like a real dim headlamp.
Ghost of a hiker?
I don't know. Like part of your face lit up when I was looking at you. It's weird.
Huh.
Could be the moon though too. Like a tree making the moonlight move or something. But
the moon's pretty stable up there.
That's
not much.
That's what I mean. And there's
no cloud cover.
There's no cloud cover at all. And there's no quad coming down the trail this time.
No.
It's hot, but if you're a careful sipper.
I've had this before. It's good.
Holy cow, that's hot.
Good job.
It's very good.
Oh, that's tasty. That is a good tea.
That's one of my favorites.
Real nice.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna move up here just to move a little bit.
Welcome to Strange Familiars, the local Roundtable. Everyone gets to introduce themselves. Starting to my left.
Oh.
Oh.
You knew you had to be first.
No.
It's Alison, everybody.
Thanks.
And sitting next to Alison is myself, Tyler Strand. And I'm honored to be here, Tim, so thank you for inviting us out. I'm really looking forward to what's in store tonight.
John Darby is here as well.
And the wayward co-host from Christmas Past, James.
Welcome back, James.
Thanks for having me.
And to my right,
fresh from the woods, Chad Redding.
And Octavian is supposed to be here, but Octavian is being Octavian, so he might show up. We'll see.
He'll arrive at some point.
I got a funny feeling he's definitely going to show up at some point.
The ghost of Christmas Past.
Yeah. Wait, well, what ghost is Octavian? Present?
He could be future. He's
Future?
the youngest of all of us. So.
Yeah. We're doomed.
So we are gathered here today. No, this is Strange Familiars 500, and you've all had a part in the show. Each and every one of you, thank you so much, because definitely couldn't do the on-site stuff alone. Well, I guess I could, but it wouldn't have the same impact. Me standing in the woods alone going, oh, look at that. Did I just see that? Oh, I did just see that. It'd be quite different. So, no, seriously, thank you all for your help along the way.
Well, thank you, Tim. It's been awesome going on various random adventures, and I have a feeling that they will continue in the days to come.
Let's make it so.
Did you have an outline for this? Or you're just winging this?
We are totally winging it.
No outlines.
You can't tell. You can't tell. It's seamless.
No outlines.
And that's what editing is for.
I'll ask you a question then. I was thinking about various TV series when you get like these big monumental episodes and then they bring all these characters back, and it's like, how does that feel in this context with all of these characters returning?
It's super cool. No, it's like this is super cool.
We really do. This is going too smoothly. There needs to be a brooder. There needs to be an angry former person sitting here, all uncomfortable, like
the Metallica documentary.
Like
Like
calm yourself. You're not going to get a banana sticker.
do side interviews with like, all right, tell me the truth.
Somebody that everyone would boo when they come on.
The guy
but you're lucky enough not to have that.
The Dave Mustaine that they gave the bus ticket to. Sent back.
No.
I'll make my own band. It'll be better than theirs.
We can all do therapy.
That would make a great episode. I think that would really open a can of worms too.
The only way that works is if everybody has like a Werther's original in their mouth that they're clicking around behind their teeth like Lars. Because that was like one of the most like mind-numbing things I've ever experienced, is just listening to him like click Nana candy in his mouth.
Some people listen to that specifically on YouTube.
It's like a Werther's original or something.
So yeah, Alison would pay money to listen
I'll probably listen to that.
Oh, you like that ASMR stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't have that. I just like very early on when we were dating. Very early on, she's like, when you like watch.
QVC.
QVC, yeah. You know, like when you watch QVC and you get that funny feeling in the back of your head.
Oh, that's in the back of your head? That's hilarious.
Don't know that. Not familiar with that.
Oh, that's so funny.
She's like, no, yeah, this
and
happened.
it didn't have a name for a long time,
No,
and then eventually it became popular, and you're like, oh, is that what you mean? I was like, yeah, that's what I meant.
Somebody, I left your ASMR intro in. I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before when you were like eating a candy or something right at the beginning. And
I didn't even know.
And somebody was like, that was a great ASMR intro. Like
That's hilarious.
Maybe we should just pivot. Just start tapping on
Maybe you need your own podcast.
I don't have you need nice nails.
Well.
You need nice nails to do that kind of stuff. I'll never have it.
What if you just really lean into not having nice nails and make them worse? Just put a bunch of dirt under them and like worms on your hands?
There's gotta be somebody into that.
There should be.
Internet.
Very niche area you could capitalize on.
Very, very niche.
So, Alison, how did you hear about Strange Familiars?
I was on a record in the 90s.
Called Strange Familiars.
Called Strange Familiars.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of in the back of my head.
Yeah.
That's a good question though. Like, at what point do you remember Tim saying like, hey, I'm going to do this podcast?
I don't know. He's always got 18 different projects going, so it would probably be like, it would be hard for me to like figure out which thing it was he was working on. But I think because he always liked to do zines, this is just a zine in audio form, so it seems like a good segue for him, like to do something like, you come up with stories and you lay them out and you edit it. I mean, it's like doing a zine. Basically.
It's actually a really funny analogy for a podcast. It is like a zine, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's like, again, incredible.
Tim was always meant for this.
Especially in the beginning, podcasts had the same feel because it was very much like, it's different now because you have podcast factories pumping out,
and people that are professional.
Yeah, pumping stuff out. But in the beginning, at least, it was very much just an even field.
and everybody was doing their own thing and making it themselves, and nobody had like hired people to do it. Everybody was just making it themselves and putting it out there to the best of their ability, and it did really feel like a zine kind of thing.
Back in the days before everyone sold out.
Well, you know, it's.
I'm not saying you sold out.
Well, I mean, money came out.
Trying very hard.
Happily sell out.
As soon as these big media companies realized there was money in it, that's when they looked. Oh, they're making money doing that. Well, we can do that, you know. And then
I think the first time I saw like anybody on YouTube or podcasts like get placement for commercials, I was like, oh, this is going to change. You know, like,
yeah. I think Serial was probably a big thing in like sort of kicking off to the general public, and I found Sasquatch Chronicles I think a little bit before that, but then that was the thing I think that brought the idea of podcast to I think like a lot of people to the forefront, I guess, for a lot of people.
Sure. Well, and there was a lot of radio shows. Like I was thinking about This American Life, which I used to listen to religiously. Yeah. And then it was like once the whole digital thing happened, it was like, oh, we can actually offer these off the radio. Mm-hmm. And I think that was sort of the.
Well, you told me how many episodes do they have?
They're only in like 800 something.
And they started
This American Life.
Yeah.
They started
in the 90s.
In the 90s.
Wow.
So I'm catching up
fast.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are so lazy.
Well, and they have a whole team.
Yeah.
They have a whole team.
They're a huge team.
Stuff. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Did you ever think, Alison, that it would become this big? That this would be where it is now?
No.
That's cool. It's really cool.
It was just another one of
Tim's crazy ideas.
She doubted you.
I mean, my track record in the past wasn't great.
That's hilarious.
The thing about the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. You know, like,
I was successful in as much as like I was happy and things weren't losing money, but they certainly weren't paying the bills, you know, for us. But so yeah, I mean, I can understand her trepidation as far as like not having a job. I'm going all in on this. I can understand her holding her head. But yeah, no, I'm where I'm supposed to be. So Chad, when did you find out about Strange Familiars?
That was, oh my. I didn't even really listen to podcasts. I had no idea that world even existed. Didn't care, okay? Because I wasn't, you know, I'm not an electronics guy, really. And a friend of mine, Dan, which you know him,
okay, yeah.
He's like, yeah, you need to check out this podcast thing. They're talking about this flannel man, and that's you, dude. Because I always wore the red plaid.
Yeah.
You know? So I was wearing my plaid before it was popular, but... And he said, oh, you gotta start listening to this. So I just started listening to this. You know, just picked some random episodes, went back. I forget. I think you weren't even like at 150 yet. It's been that long. And
no, because you were before 100. Your episode, I think, was in the 70s or something.
Are you sure?
90s?
I think, yeah. You didn't have that many, and I listened. I was like, well, this is really cool. And then I also liked that you were local, because very much, you know, I'm Pennsylvania proud. So I want everything to come back that I do to come back to the state and help this state and the people here in this state as much as I can, especially people in York County. So I'm proud of the local history, and you know that. I'm into local history and all that stuff. And then I was like, well, I had an encounter on White Rocks. I think I'll contact him. And next thing you know, I'm in the woods with you. He just kind of sucks you in. Did you ever notice that, John? He just, you know, it's like a vortex. You can't get away. But now here I am, you know, all this time later. And
did you listen from the start, James?
No, I knew. I did not know, because I've always been a bit of a loner. I don't really do a whole lot of that stuff generally. Always been interested since I was a kid, and I've had, you know, there's tons of weird things from those times. But like, I knew you through music.
Right.
I had heard someone talking about you being into this stuff, and I was like, oh, I wonder what kind of stuff he's checking out, because I wonder if it's anything like related or anything similar to things that I've experienced or whatever. And then we kind of had some conversations through music stuff.
We were over at Brian's, and we started talking about Sasquatch Chronicles.
No, you put one of my band's records out.
Yeah.
And
which band was that?
The Gross Ex Machina.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was that far back that we
Yeah.
were talking, and it took a while, but eventually you wanted to hear my stories.
Yeah.
And
oh, that's right, for the first book. That's right. So we talked for the first book, so that would have been before the podcast.
Yeah. So it was pre-podcast, actually.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you invited me to go check out and go check out some things, do some interviews, and just sort of have someone to bounce some ideas and things off of, and off we went.
Yeah. No, you
And
came at
some pretty weird.
You came at honestly, like, you came at a time I needed a partner. With Alison, you hadn't even like started speaking in the studio too much yet. You'd done the Barnum's Cannibal episode with us, but you weren't kind of doing even like the intros and stuff with me at that time.
No, when you first
And-
started, you asked me to just say, "Don't look behind you" or something like
Yeah,
that, and I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do
I think
it.
you read some things too. I think you read some articles too.
Like
Our friend Seriah read a lot of articles.
She
in the
did too,
beginning,
and you
but-
did also.
So I think maybe I read some articles first or something.
Yeah, maybe. It's the Barnum's Cannibal episode was the first one, but you came, James, at a time when I needed, like, you. I don't know how it just worked out.
Honestly, I think that's how things happen. If you aren't forcing things,
Mm-hmm.
stuff just tends to fall into place. If you think about the people that are in your life and how you know them, and had you not met them that way, how many other weird ways you probably would have met eventually down the line.
Yeah.
You know?
We have enough friends in common. And
There's
stuff that-
connective tissue, for sure.
Yeah. You know, people would ask, what happened to James? I think it was multiple things happened. So the pandemic happened.
Pandemic happened. I was traveling to Canada. I was spending a lot of time in Canada, too. So
Yeah.
I just wasn't around as often. Started working on a music project that was sucking up a lot of time, professional career. Just really had not figured out how to establish a healthy balance of all of those things. But yeah, I didn't die. Or did I? Maybe the ultimate.
That's been a topic of discussion here lately, actually.
The M. Night Shyamalan twist is
relevant.
I'm a ghost right now.
I think we might all be ghosts.
So he did feed you to a dimensional horror. Is that what happened? And when the portal opened up, he pushed you through?
No, I just jumped in.
Okay. Not helping. This is helping.
It was like, Jimmy, no.
My favorite story about James is this was like, we're at Site 7 and we see a bunch of lights. We're just standing there. We see a bunch of lights coming up.
Initially, that was our like sort of scope out.
Yeah. Like you were the first person to go there with me. But we're standing there one night. We see these lights coming up through the woods, and we're like, what? Weird lights. I quickly realized, no, those are flashlights. It's like, it's got to be poachers. Yeah. It's got to be poachers.
This was like after we had been there and had a couple really weird times.
Oh yeah. So, and I had left a recorder like tied to the gate.
Well, no, we didn't even want to try to get the recorder. We were just like, all right, let's just roll.
Well, that's what I mean. I left it there, and we get in the car, and I'm like, we'll go and we'll come back. So we go out, and we're like halfway up the road, and James is like, nah, we're going back. And I'm like, okay, like not wanting to be the cow. I didn't want to, but I'm not going to be like, no, I don't want to. All right, like we're going back. So go back, and I'm driving back. Before I even get the car parked, he's out the door and rolling up, and I hear him. By the time I get the car parked and I get out, he's going, "What are you guys doing?" And there was those kids that were hiding They're behind the gate.
Like, it was wild because I reached over to grab the recorder because I knew where you'd put it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I reached over, I had my cell phone, like, using the light, and I just see, like, legs on the ground. I'm like, what is going on? Like, it was a weird moment because I just saw legs and shoes. And it's like, that's not supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Neither are we. But like, it's pretty funny.
And that was the night they were saying, "You guys were flying a drone over our heads."
Yeah,
we have no drone.
We're not that high tech.
And that was back when it was like.
Yeah, drones were not that common.
No, but we had seen drones out there during the daytime flying over that place, like airplane shaped.
Oh yeah,
drones.
And we saw a weird drone like in Wrightsville. Remember that time we were going to Jackson's wedding? We were on the way to Jackson's wedding, and we just saw that weird. I guess it was a drone. It looked weird, like flying over Wrightsville. Went over to the river, did a hard right-hand turn, and went south over the river. Like, like
Like
turned
follow
like
the
on a
river.
dime kind of thing.
Maybe it's just a small aircraft, and then just kind of like.
I mean, it
use
could have
the
been
river as a
military
guide to-
drone or something.
There's a little guy inside with pointy ears. It was the weirdest drone I've ever seen.
John, you said you have been listening since episode 5.
Yeah, I think it's episode 5.
Wow.
Well, obviously I've known you guys forever. Like, I met you through Alison, because I was friends with Alison and her sister, and then you and I were friends for a while, and then life happened. We kind of drifted apart. I hadn't talked to you for a lot of years, and then I found out you were doing this podcast, and then I think the first time I chatted with you at Sarah's wedding briefly.
Okay.
And then came to see you in New York when you were doing that book signing.
Okay, yeah.
And picked up the book, a couple CDs, caught up with you. And it was shortly after that I was listening to the podcast, and I'm like, man, I got things to say about this. So shot you a message and then popped down to your house, and the rest.
Another interesting tidbit is there's a rapping at the door.
There is a rapping at the door.
Tapping at the bedroom door.
Well, an interesting coincidence is I've known the Darbys the longest.
Yeah.
I've known them since I was a tyke.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, since like junior high school.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Octavian, grab a chair.
So the first time you were on was when we hiked into Site 7? Was it the first time you were on?
No, it was. I'm pretty sure my history's a little fuzzy, but I'm pretty sure it was the Wolfman's Grave.
That, but he wasn't on
because you
for
went
that.
up with him when
he was on the show right away.
Divining for
You guys were doing
Yes.
stuff
for the
but
Wolfman's
not on
Grave.
the show
That's
yet.
when you were on there.
Yeah, it was
I
the
remember
Wolfman's
that.
Grave was the first outing I went with you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You were like, hey, you come up, hey, do you want to go find a Wolfman's Grave? I'm like, yeah. Sounds like something I'd like to do.
Okay. Yeah,
It wasn't James. He wasn't the Wolfman.
Was not James.
It wasn't James.
Or was it?
Octavian Graves has finally made it here.
I have. Apologies.
You've only known about this for a month. So.
And you decided to head 3 hours away when you knew you'd have to be back.
Very good planning on my end.
When did you come across Strange Familiars, Octavian?
Oh boy, I'd say 2018. Reliable.
Oh, dude, you got skipped. He skipped right over you. You started here, and then we kind of went
I'm
this
coming
way.
back. I'm coming back.
Oh, how brutal, right?
Slighted.
Oh boy.
2018, so that would have been fairly early on, but not.
Yeah.
I would have been in double digits at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you, or were you still 19?
Oh, I didn't.
That might be in triple digits.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was more.
Because I heard old Duke on Sasquatch Chronicles.
Okay.
Talking about trolls, and then I looked him up, and your episode on it.
Oh,
and
okay.
that was how I got into it.
Gotcha.
Because he got much weirder on Strange Familiars than he ever did on Sasquatch Chronicles.
Oh, Duke did.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I forgot. Yeah. Did I do 2 episodes with him? I think I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Tyler Strand.
Oh no.
Now, I met you with Chad originally down at that West Virginia conference, whatever that was.
Oh. You did, yes.
Cryptid Bash.
Cryptid Bash, yeah.
Were you listening to Strange Familiars?
Yeah, I was. So actually, we were kind of familiar with each other in a way. Maybe not you. Maybe it's just from my end. But years prior, the first time you popped onto my radar, you and I did an online conference together.
Okay.
And you actually gave a lecture right before me. I believe you gave it on Site 7, of all places.
Oh, weird.
And I came on right after you, and I gave a lecture on how I incorporated special makeup and effects and mold making into the paranormal. But it was like way early. And before that had happened, I was familiar with your name. I had heard you name drop from various people within my circle of this thing. Which, as you know, I don't have a big circle, but I'm like, you were kind of on my radar. But then after that event that we both did, which was online, you had that lecture. I listened to your lecture. I'm like, well, this guy's interesting. Let me take a listen to this. And it's kind of funny. I don't think I ever told you this. But when I first started listening to your podcast, I would mostly do it very late at night. I'd go to the gym, and your podcast would be the duration of my workout. I'm like, I'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'll listen to Strange Familiars.
I remember you saying that from the conversation.
You did? Okay, yeah. See, I'm consistent. I don't lie.
I got to sit there and listen to these guys banter, and at the same time, I'm waiting, and this
a cop comes up, you need to move or you're going to get a parking ticket. I'm like, guys, we need to go.
That's so funny. Recently, I didn't even remember that.
Oh, that's so funny.
You're like, I was like getting really frustrated with you two.
I was like, yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was a great conversation, but I was like, look, guys, we need to go, or
that's
somebody's
hilarious.
going to be paying the parking ticket.
That's so funny. So I'd listened to you, I think, for like a few years, and I would catch up. I'd skip around. I'd look up topics that I thought were interesting. You had so many episodes, even then, when I came into it. And after listening to it for a little bit, I'm like, wow, he has a really great perspective on stuff. I could tell you sounded genuine in all of this. I really liked where you were coming from with it. And as you know, with my perspective, like, there's a lot of voices in the paranormal. I don't listen to a whole lot of them. I don't trust a whole lot of them. I don't really consume a whole lot of paranormal media in general. I don't even really listen to podcasts even. But for whatever reason, be it the fates or what have you, I listened to yours. I'm like, wow, this guy has a really great perspective. I'd love to talk to him. I'd like to know him more. And then, I don't know how long after from that initial conference you and I shared, but at some point you had that event in West Virginia, which was only an hour away from me. And it was a town that I visited already regularly. I had some friends there. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to go there. I went there specifically to meet you. I'm like, I'm going to talk to Tim. You happened to be there as well. It was awesome. I got to meet you. I didn't know who was going to be there. I just remember seeing something online. I'm like, okay, Tim's going to be there. Let me go there. And then we got to talking. I hung out like the whole duration, bugging you, throwing all these theories at you, and then it kind of escalated from there. Started with phone calls. We'd say insane stuff for like 4 hours straight sometimes at night.
Tyler is one of the few people that matches my sleep schedule. Sometimes
the 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yep.
And so we made for many late night phone calls.
I'll never forget there was one time you're like, I think it was like 2 a.m. He sent me a message like, hey, you up? I'm like, yup. Your phone call comes. So yeah, things just kind of grew from there. And now, when Elbat Witch Festival came a year earlier, that was the first time I came out here. I met you. I went to your house, had a roundtable then, and things just kind of grew from there. So yeah, I've been a listener and a friend. And to play off of what James said earlier, I'm also not convinced that we're not dead and in some kind of weird purgatory, and I think that we all probably know each other for a strange reason, and I think that's only going to escalate from here.
Could be. Kaya.life, KIYA.life. They're the nonprofit at Pine Ridge Reservation we are supporting, and we hope that you will support them too if you're able to. They're doing good work there. They're right there on the reservation. It's run by folks at Pine Ridge. Again, it's Kaya.life, KIYA.life. If you can afford to give something, please do. So I'm trying to think of like my favorite Strange Familiars moment with each of you. James, I don't know if you remember this that night
I
at
remember
Site 7. We got grunted at, and it backed us up to the middle of the circle. And we had said, because I said, I'm going to turn my light on next time we hear something. We were getting ready to leave, kind of thing. And I flipped my light on, and I hit that big white eye shine, and I said, look, and by that time it had turned away, and then you looked over, and then it turned back. You got to see it turn back and see the eye shine, if I remember correctly. Like, that thing, whenever it was, it seemed like it turned and looked over his shoulder.
I have, like, as it relates, I mean, there's a whole best of, or I don't even know if best of is, like, the proper way to word it, but there's a lot of Site 7 stuff that has, like, really stuck with me. But I think the top of my list of fun times was getting to interview Rose McGowan.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm kidding. It was pretty cool though. You gotta admit that was pretty clutch when I pulled that off. Right? Yeah. I mean, the interviews, the sort of the people aspect of it is, I think, something that's very underplayed in a lot of things of like podcasts and things of this nature, is like the actual the people, right? Like who you're talking to. That really is, to me, one of the most interesting things. But like Site 7, there wasn't people. It was just us, and we're not people. but like all of the Site 7 stuff was definitely, I mean, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
With the experiences over there, for sure.
It's hard to pick a.
Oh my! Where do you start?
Yeah,
we've had so many adventures.
I'm gonna say it for you.
Okay.
I'm thinking it's the sleepover at Pandemonium.
That's hard to match. That was pretty intense because, yeah, I guess I'll have to.
I'm gonna say.
I guess I'd have to choose
for
that
you.
one. Yeah, because we didn't even know each other that well.
No.
When that happened, and you're like, "Come on, we're gonna go camping." And again, we went to Pandemonium. I've told the story a million times. We went to Pandemonium for ghost stuff. We weren't thinking anything else. And then to be woken up by wood knocks at 3:30 in the morning, as loud as can be, that was intense.
Still bugs me to this day.
Yeah, I guess I'll choose that one. Although there was, I mean, that Michaux, the time that tree broke, it sounded like a cannon.
Oh my god! Yeah, anything in Harry Springs was crazy.
Yeah. And then finding your knife at Harry Springs, that was insane. That was pretty cool too. Yeah.
It's such a crazy name for that place too.
Yeah,
why does it have that name?
That is its true name. We didn't give it that name.
Yeah.
That is its true name.
Harry too.
You have to understand, Michaux is a very special place, and every place in that forest is different. All the hollows have crazy names. So you have Double Ants Hollow. You have literally Haunted Hollow. You have Harry Springs. You have
my God.
Dark Hollow, which he has never been there yet, but that is probably...
We went halfway in.
You went halfway in, but that
Crazy.
is probably one of the most active areas in that forest next to Harry Springs.
Wow.
Yeah, Dead Woman's Hollow.
I've had all kinds
What?
of... Yeah, Dead Woman's Hollow.
Get out of here.
No, it's true.
This is comical at this point. Wow.
Yeah, so that whole...
Dead Woman's Hollow.
That forest, half of Dead Woman's Hollow is gone now.
Okay.
They've cut trees. They've cut down the trees.
That's where I got stuck.
Yeah.
In the parking lot of Dead Woman's Hollow.
That's insane.
But no, it's that forest is its own animal altogether.
Wow.
So Octavian, the first time.
Oh yeah.
At Kazoo's together.
And I think what was so significant about that is everything that happened to us that day. That's been the flavor of the majority of stuff that's happened when we've been together.
You pointed that out recently. I hadn't thought about that deeply.
Like, we get a lot of auditory stuff and a lot of really like chances of visuals, and then they synchronously disappear. You know?
Yeah, but
So,
like you said, you always see stuff. Well, not always, but you often see stuff when we're together. I hadn't even thought about that because usually I don't, other than lights.
Yeah.
But at Kazoo's, that big thing moving through the woods, whatever it was, I said it looked like a bird flying sideways, but a giant one. I don't know what that was. Like,
that's so weird.
Like that's like the Site 7 that night when the thing moved from like,
what the hell?
Like lower right to like upper left.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah, just the local Mothman population.
Yeah,
that's
no big deal. No big deal.
After the show, I used the audio of us there that night because we both were like, "Did you see that?" You know, like, "Did you see that?"
So let me ask you a question now, since you have a lot of people that you've had experiences with.
Who's your favorite?
No, that's not what I was going to ask. But you can
Everybody put a knife on the table. For listeners right now, Chad is currently releasing multiple knives onto the table.
Personal.
Possibly enough to give every one of us a knife.
But no.
This might be the last episode you ever
I was
hear.
going to ask.
That's incredible.
We all have 9 fingers.
So, anyway, you have all these people here that you've had different misadventures or adventures with. Now, you said his has a certain flavor to it. When you're with each person,
do all your adventures have different flavors? Do all your encounters have different flavors? So is it the fact that when you're with Octavian, it's different. When you're with me, it's different. When you're with Jon, it's different. Are they different?
I think slightly. I think slightly. Not terribly so, and not necessarily where I could point out. Like Octavian's one who pointed out, like, you see stuff.
Me?
With me. And I'm like, it took me a minute. I was like, oh, I guess I have. Like, the few times I've, not the only times, but so I guess they do, and it's not something I think too hard about.
No, I'm just wondering if you have you thought.
And I don't know that I could define how they're different.
No, because maybe with you and me it has a different vibe versus you and Jon or you and
I think
James.
Everyone has a different energy, and we all bring that to it. I think, and I think that does matter with this.
I think that's a really interesting question because I do think there's something to be said about obviously all speculatory. Maybe it means nothing in the end. But I do think there might be something to like certain people make a certain kind of equation. And it's not that others can't or that they won't be successful, but it's like, what value does it give? Does it promote different experiences if you have different minds melding? Because I do think there's something to be said about the kind of invisible connections you share when you're all in one kind of headspace. I think everyone's individual personality will ultimately bleed onto the other. So we all kind of adapt a certain aspect of how we talk, how we feel around each other. Does that promote different experiences? I think that's actually a really great question.
Jon and Tyler's easy. That fireball. I mean, that's an easy one. Like, that fireball was stunning.
Yeah.
It was striking. It was a beautiful sight. I think these things are always beautiful in a way. But of course, they come with a weight, I think.
Secondarily, Jon, when we did hike into Site 7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you saw the lights.
That was pretty stunning.
Which I was super happy for. Because... Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I was open. Like, if you really could debunk it, I'm open to that. Like,
yeah, I mean, I went in there that time really thinking, like, well, there's got to be something going. I'll be able to explain it. I was a little cocky about that, and it's pretty stunning and unexplainable.
Yeah. I'm happy if you could. I wasn't mad about that.
Yeah,
if you can tell me what they are, tell me.
Yeah.
And that's why when we got there, I was like, don't fool yourself. Because you're like, I think I might see. So don't think you might.
Yeah.
Wait until you see. And that was a pretty neat night.
It was cool watching you change.
Yeah, that was a very eye-opening moment.
I watched you, like, it was cool watching your opinion change on these things.
That was definitely a little transformational moment.
It was cool. It was really cool to be part of that.
Yeah.
To see you in that moment. That was neat.
Well, something that I think is special too, even just hearing that story, maybe I'm off the mark in my speculation, but when it comes to like your, I hesitate to say skepticism, but you're going in being like, well, I can explain it. But after having known you so far and like hearing your thoughts on things, it's not that you're, like in my experience, and I'm sure a lot of us could speak to this, there's a lot of skeptics who seem to act in bad faith.
Mm-hmm.
Their skepticism is actually very extremist in a way where it's not that they're skeptics in the sense of being honest skeptics.
Right.
They're just skeptics for the sake of destroying a thing. But you're someone who's not coming from that angle of destroying a thing. You're just open to the possibilities. But if you can explain it, you can.
Sure.
And there's an honesty there. And I think that honesty promotes experience. So to me, it's no surprise that you going in with this kind of mindset, this experience unfolds and it reveals the truth to you, because I think you're going in with good intention.
Sure.
Good intention even when it comes to the skepticism of things, which I think is very important to, note.
Yeah, and I think at this point, like, my skepticism lies more in this idea that Bigfoot could potentially be a flesh and blood mammal. Like, I'm entirely skeptical of that. Like, I feel like that's...
Me too.
There's no chance of that. Or even like nuts and bolts UAPs at this point. Like,
sure.
Speaking of skepticism,
I knew this was
someone's in the hot seat. We're all crazy.
You didn't even talk about your favorite moment. I thought the fact that maybe the fact that we had children together, something. He's
like, oh, we're all crazy, huh?
That was before the show.
Show related. Your favorite moment with me, show related.
Favorite show related moment with you, the Unbroken Circle.
Yeah, going to see the Jenny Beans.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was powerful. I was like standing there. I mean, it was sad, and that was the point where I was like, "Oh, true crime."
I don't want to do any true crime anymore.
True crime is not something I really want to do. Now, of course, we do a little bit here and there, but
I'd like to get more and more distance. I mean, since then, a family member who is still alive has contacted us, and we have to go and talk to him. But,
one of Jenny Beam's family members.
Yeah.
The Broken Circle was an intense series. It was fun to put together, but it was intense, and I remember standing on Jenny Beam's grave, going, "Oh, this is so real." Like this is.
Yeah, it was a real person. It really happened. It's not that sort of. Because there is one layer removed when you're listening to a story where it really it doesn't. It's not so real.
Yeah, it's just like she was 2 or something.
Yeah, she was
like
a baby.
Just a 2-year-old girl. Yeah, it was rough. But
back to me being a skeptic.
Yeah, I mean, I know a moment. Like I point to a moment. And it was at Albatwitch Day.
Yeah.
And that guy came up with his daughter. His daughter basically drug him up.
Yeah.
And said, "Talk to this man," and he told his story. And I remember he left, and I looked over at you, and the look on your face, it was like concern for this man, and kind of.
Yeah, he was really upset.
And kind of shocked at his story, and your exact words were to me, "I don't know what he saw, but he saw something." I know that was like this. I think. I mean, from outside looking in, you tell me, seemed like a change in you at that moment. Just kind of like a little switch, just kind of clicked to like something's happening. Something happened to him. He saw something.
Yeah.
Which again, at Tyler's expression about honest skepticism, that's what I feel that is. I feel that's a move towards honest skepticism, saying like, okay, I'm not prepared to say he saw a little hairy man, but he saw something.
Yeah.
And it affected him deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably just a different lens. I feel like I have a different lens. I just see things through a just slightly different lens than.
But my read is that it's your compassion for people that moved you there.
Yeah.
Because you were able to see in him.
Yeah, he was really upset.
Like a deep experience.
That's not something you can fake.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's only a few people when I've heard you interview. Because we don't have a soundproof room in our house,
right.
So I've heard you interview almost everybody.
Yeah, hundreds of people at this point.
And there's only been, and with me being the way I am, I'd say there's only been 3 or 4 people where I heard them and I thought, oh, they're just lying.
Mm-hmm.
But only a few, and I can't even think of who they were now. But maybe at the time it wasn't that.
I made 2 of them.
Yeah. But most everyone else seems entirely genuine in what they were talking about.
I feel that's a great service that Strange Familiars does. Okay, so yeah, it's a cool paranormal podcast. Yeah, it has some cool history. But one of the good services that he does as a good individual is he lets these people tell their stories.
Yeah,
they have a person to go to. Yeah, you're performing a service for people, a good service. And I think that's what you're here for, is to document and record these stories for these people. They have a safe place they can come to, they can talk to, they're comfortable, Well,
I mean, I'm glad you brought that detail up, because I think unless people are interviewing people on the ground, I don't think there's a lot of knowledge of like how many normal people there are that have these stories. Like a lot of people who have these occurrences aren't like the run-of-the-mill, like the cliche, like, oh, they're just a crazy person.
Yeah,
they're regular people.
Absolutely.
They're regular people. Absolutely. And you can see the weight of that. Like even what you're saying, James, there's a weight behind what people are saying with these stories, where it's like they carry that with them for many years. And even the play off of what you said, Chad, which I absolutely believe is true, when it comes to Tim having this podcast, there is a service that's being given, because I've seen it personally where you can tell when there's someone who has carried a weight with them for years and years and years. And because these things are stigmatized in the way they are from time to time, people carry that for years, and someone like Tim gives them an outlet, and it helps them work through that and go, well, that meant something. It meant something that someone is willing to listen. And I think that's a very special thing to earn that trust from a stranger. And I think that's a very special role that we are often thrust into, even if we're not expecting to fill that role. You know, it's kind of our own weight we have to carry with that kind of trust. And I hope that people, as time goes along, they continue to cultivate that trust and understand that we are willing to listen to them and the things that they've experienced, because it is something that happens, and I think it's very cool that we have a crew of people here that can see that, you know, and it's awesome to hear. You know, I think it mystifies the reality that we live in, and it's important to keep alive in people's minds.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing to end with. Nice segment to end with. But we're not going to end because I'm going to thank you.
Is it definitely working?
Yeah.
You're like,
let's make sure the batteries are warm. They have a habit of the batteries going
and
out
take it
at
from the
worst
top.
times.
Okay, none of that got captured. No, we cannot name names on this, James.
Right.
But
you're going to add it out. Just
No.
Just have a regular conversation.
Let's freestyle.
One
Let's
of my favorite things ever.
I know what you're saying.
You and I would embody two well-known characters from the cryptozoology world. and we would be in character, but we would switch back and forth between these two characters who are fairly interchangeable anyway.
Yeah.
And
speaking of credence, I can hear it almost in the distance. It's blaring in the...
there were times like... We talked about that event in Maryland, and I don't even know if the people knew who we were doing. Everyone around us was just cracking up, just dying laughing. We were making each other laugh.
Yeah.
You had me in tears coming home. Like, there were points where I was like, I don't know if I can drive because I'm in tears laughing so hard. If and when I ever decide to be done, I think the last episode we will do in character.
Oh my god, I would love to.
As those two people.
As those people, yeah, I could do it for sure.
So much fun.
Yeah, they live here. Rent free.
I'm sorry we can't name names because these people might get offended, even though we're not meaning to be offended.
It's all in good fun.
Yeah, it's just
it's
all
all
in
good fun.
Anyway,
Octavian and I are going to beat both of you.
That's fine.
Oh, that'd be great.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah. I'm going to start lifting weights tonight.
and be ready to shoot everything down.
James, thanks for stopping by.
Oh,
thanks,
yeah.
Thanks for being
Anytime.
a part of the show.
Anytime.
And
Anytime.
I mean to get you back in the woods. I'd love to get you back in the woods. As I said, you, as far as I'm concerned, are a part of this. You're still a part of this. You just took a break.
I appreciate that.
And I'd love to get you back in the mix.
Yeah.
John?
Well, I have a lot of different perspective and a lot of weird... Yeah, we gotta catch up on the weird stuff. since
Absolutely.
Last time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Chad, thank you. I don't know what to say, man. You're my brother. You're all my brothers in this. But some amazing, amazing things we've been through, and thank you for being part of Strange Familiars.
Oh, it's been fantastic. I said that with trepidation. No.
As you should.
No, it's been awesome. It's been a wild ride, and the ride's going to keep going, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been crazy.
John, thank you.
Yeah, man.
I've known John since he was a teenager. Our worlds kind of,
Well, I
DNA
guess I
strand.
have
do
to.
that.
That's right. Flow in and out, yeah.
Yeah. So, man, thank you for being part of this journey.
My pleasure.
Octavian? You. No.
Getting them sewers.
Octavian, seriously, thank you for being part of this.
Of course. My pleasure.
It's
Thanks for having me.
You're the young guy. How's it feel to be the young guy?
It's interesting. It's a very interesting experience because I'm seeing things from a new perspective, but also picking up on older perspectives that I align with.
Oh, we're pushing our baggage on them.
Listen. It's important because I'm trying to transition out of the young guy role.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you all my baggage. So I get to move up one tier because of you. So it's actually very great.
So keeping the young guy moniker.
Tyler, thank you, man. Thanks for being a part of this.
Man,
Thank you all. Alison, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for your support. Like,
you're welcome.
honestly, I couldn't have gotten this going without your support and
patience.
Yeah, and here we are. So thank you all.
I meant that in a good way.
Thanks one and all for being part of this.
Well, thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
You know, I don't know where the journey goes. I don't know where it ends. I don't know if it has an end.
I don't think it does.
But I'm looking forward to where it leads.
No! Oh my goodness.
It's got a Bigfoot on it!
John just produced a cake that says 500 and there's a meditating Bigfoot.
This is our way to say thanks to you, Tim, because this has been like...
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure.
I can't wait to watch you eat it.
We'll tear into that after we hit the stop button.
Octavian should smash your head into it.
You need like a Bigfoot to come and smush it into your face.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you. Wow.
Wow.
For those listening, there's a big white frosted cake in big blue letters with the number 500, and there's
Strange Familiars blue.
That's right. And there's a cross-legged Bigfoot in the corner.
He's meditating. Yes.
Statue.
Awesome. Well, that's a great place to end.
Here's to 500 more.
Thank you.
That's a lot.
Should we happen to live that long?
Yeah.
Thanks, James.
Thank you to the listeners.
James,
you
last
know.
minute rescue. Thank you to the listeners. Absolutely. We really couldn't do it without the listeners.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. Like, I'm so honored that people care. Like, thank you. Thank you all. Thanks to patrons. Thanks to listeners. Thanks to everybody. We would not be able to do this show without you all. So thank you. James, last minute rescue.
Yeah.
Good job.
Did anybody have anything they want to... James, you've got a new band.
Yeah. Orphan the band you can find on all social media and all streaming services. Look for the ghost as the icon, and it will indicate you have found the correct Orphan the band. We just released Nothing Lives Here Anymore on the 8th of November, and that is out there in the world. And give it a listen. Give it a save.
You'll put that in the links.
I will put all that in the links.
Yeah.
Strange Dominions Podcast. .com, all of our websites. We're on Facebook, Instagram. Just dropped an episode with the author Jason Miller. So if you're into paranormal and magic, please come check it out.
Chat. Rock Rabbit Outdoors.
Rock Rabbit Outdoors. If you like wool, knives, axes, any of that woodsy stuff, check us out. At the Etsy shop or at Black Rose in Hanover. We seem to be doing really good there. And then check out the YouTube channel for whatever misadventures I get into, and check us out at local festivals. We've been popping up all over the East Coast lately at all these woodsman festivals. More to come.
All right, Rock Rabbit Outdoors.
Yeah.
John?
You can find all your comic book needs at riverbendcomics.com.
There you go.
It's hoping to get a facelift after the New Year's as well, so check it out now. Check back soon.
As for Tyler Strand, I really only have one kind of social media handle, and at the moment it's only on Instagram. But if you look up Black Wolf 26, you'll find me there. But there will be more to come in that. Yeah, I just want to say thanks again, Tim, for allowing this whole thing to happen, and I think it's quite the accomplishment to reach episode 500.
Well, thanks.
So I'm looking forward to what the future holds for you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I want to thank our patrons. Thank you so much, patrons. We could not make Strange Familiars without you. If you like Strange Familiars and you'd like to help us make the show and get extra content besides, you can become a patron at Patreon. It's patreon.com/strangefamiliars. All of our patrons get commercial-free versions of the weekly shows, plus extra episodes every month. We promise at least one full episode of Strange Familiars exclusive to our patrons. Sometimes we do more. Again, it's patreon.com/strangefamiliars if you want to find out more. There's also an option on Apple Podcasts. The subscription is called Patron of the Strange there, and Apple Podcast subscribers also get the commercial-free weekly episodes and the bonus episodes monthly.
Well, that's episode 500, Alison, in 2 parts.
Next thing you know, we'll be at 502.
It seems like we just did 300, honestly.
That was the Witch Cloud, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that seems like 6 months ago. It doesn't seem like...
It doesn't seem that long ago. Before we go, once again, Kaya.life, KIYA.life. That's a nonprofit at Pine Ridge. I know I mentioned it a bunch of times this episode. I kind of wanted it to be like a pledge drive.
Yeah.
Like an NPR pledge drive. They were so kind to us to show us around and to give us those stories. I really wanted to make that part of the episode as well. So if you can afford to give something to Kaya.life, please do. KIYA.life. Our Etsy shop is Lost Grave over there at Etsy. There's links in the show notes. There's Strange Familiar stickers, t-shirts, patches, and more. My books are there. You can get artwork, prints, and originals. Alison has various bits of ephemera over there. Go check it out. Again, shop name is Lost Grave. If you go to Etsy and type in Strange Familiars, you should see our stuff come up, though. And as long as they last, and we should have plenty to last through the holidays, any order, $10 or more, gets a very nice, large vinyl sticker. Strange Familiars vinyl sticker with the Eyes of Night design. Thanks for supporting us over there. We do have lots and lots of cool stuff for Curiosities of the Week coming up.
Yeah, we kind of stocked up in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. So
but this week we'd really like, if anybody has extra to give, to
Kaya.life, yeah. That's why we didn't want to do too much of that. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for 500 episodes. And we'll be back soon with more. Strange Familiars is a production of Dark Holler Arts. Intro and background music is by Stone Breath. If you want to hear more or purchase music, you can go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com. We're on Instagram at Strange Familiars, one word, no underscore. Please give us a follow there. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/strangefamiliars. There's a Strange Familiars gathering group there as well. We can talk about spooky things and all things Strange Familiars related. For Strange Familiars merch, it's strangefamiliars.com/merch, and strangefamiliars.com is where you can find us all the time.